The wedding was beautiful until the groom's mother stood up to speak. The flowers were perfect. The music was soft. My daughter looked happier than I had seen her in years. I was sitting near the front table holding a folded tissue in my hand, trying not to cry too hard because I did not want to ruin my makeup before the pictures. For one sweet moment, I thought the hardest years were behind us. I thought my baby had found a man who loved her. I thought his family had finally accepted her. I thought the day would end with dancing, cake, and happy tears. Then, the groom's mother reached for the microphone. At first, people smiled. They expected a blessing, maybe a little story, maybe a few kind words about love and family, but I saw the way she looked across that room. Her eyes passed over the bride and groom, passed over the flowers, passed over the guests, then they stopped on me. Cold, sharp, almost satisfied, and before the cake was even cut, that woman revealed a secret that made my daughter's hands start shaking under the table. That was the moment I understood something terrible. This wedding was never just a celebration. It was a setup. My name is Lorraine Brooks. I was 68 years old when my daughter, Camille, got married. Camille is my only daughter, my oldest child, my soft-hearted girl, the one who used to stand in my kitchen wearing my church shoes, pretending she was grown, the one who cried when stray cats looked hungry, the one who wrote little notes and slipped them under my bedroom door when she thought I was sad. Mama, I love you. Mama, don't cry. Mama, one day I will buy you a big house. I kept those notes for years in a shoebox under my bed, even after the paper turned yellow, even after the pencil marks faded. A mother saves proof that her children once needed her. Camille was 34 when she met Brandon Hill. Brandon was handsome in a quiet way, tall, soft-spoken, polite. He worked in finance, wore clean shirts, and always said, "Yes, ma'am," when he spoke to me. The first time Camille brought him to my house, he brought flowers. Not cheap flowers from the gas station either. Real flowers, wrapped in brown paper. He handed them to me and said, "Mrs. Brooks, thank you for having me." I liked that. I liked the way he pulled Camille's chair out at dinner. I liked the way he listened when she spoke. I liked the way he laughed at my jokes even when they were not that funny. Most of all, I liked the way Camille looked at him. Hopeful. Careful, a little scared, like she wanted love but did not want to beg for it. I understood that look. I had worn it myself years ago with her father. Camille's father, Dennis, was not a bad man in the beginning. That is what makes some stories hard to tell. People want villains to start out clearly. They want cruel men to walk in, already cruel. But Dennis came into my life smiling. He had a good job, a deep laugh, a way of making ordinary days feel exciting. Then, little by little, his charm became control. His laughter became criticism. His love became something I had to earn. By the time Camille was 12, I had learned to keep peace by shrinking. By the time she was 16, she had learned to read a room before entering it. By the time she graduated high school, Dennis had left us for a woman from his office and told everyone our marriage had simply run its course. Run its course. Like I was a road, like our children were weather. After Dennis left, I raised Camille and her younger brother Malcolm on my own. I worked at the county records office during the day and did alterations for church ladies at night. Hemlines, dots, zippers, sleeves, princessai. Sewed other women's dresses while my own life kept coming apart at the seams. But we made it. Camille went to college. Malcolm joined the fire department. I paid my mortgage. I kept food in the fridge. I held my head up. And I told myself that if love ever came for my daughter, I wanted it to be kind. I wanted a man who would never make her feel small. Brandon seemed like that man, at least in the beginning. His mother was another story. Her name was Victoria Hill. Even her name sounded expensive. Victoria Hill. Like a building downtown with marble floors. She was tall, slim, and always dressed like she expected someone to take her picture. Her hair was silver, but not old silver. Elegant silver, the kind women pay money for. She wore pearls, not because she was soft, but because she knew pearls made judgment look classy. The first time I met her, it was at a lunch Brandon arranged. He said, "Mama wants to meet everyone before things get serious." Mama. Not my mother, Mama. The way he said it told me plenty. Victoria arrived 10 minutes late and apologized to no one. She kissed Brandon on the cheek, held Camille's hands, then turned to me. "Lorraine," she said. "Not Mrs. Brooks, not Camille's. Mother. Lorraine." I smiled anyway. "Victoria, nice to meet you." She looked me over in a way I had seen before, not openly rude. Worse. Measured, like she was quietly deciding what shelf I belonged on. "You raised a lovely daughter," she said. "Thank you." "I think so too." Camille squeezed my hand under the table. At lunch, Victoria asked Camille about work, education, goals, finances, and family background in a tone that made friendly questions sound like an interview. Camille answered politely. I watched my daughter's shoulders get tighter and tighter. Brandon kept smiling like everything was normal. Maybe for him, it was. Maybe in his family, love always came with inspection. When Victoria asked where I worked, I told her, "The county records office." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Oh. Administrative." I knew that tone, the small lowering of a word. "Administrative as." If I had said I sorted paper in a basement for amusement? "Yes," I said. "For 28 years. "How steady," she replied. "Steady. Some people say steady when they mean small." I let it pass. I had let many things pass in life. Too many. When Brandon proposed 8 months later, Camille called me crying. "Mama," she said. "He asked." Was sitting at my kitchen table sewing a hem by lamplight. My needle froze in the fabric. "And?" I said yes. Her voice shook with joy. I closed my eyes. My baby was getting married. I should have felt only happiness. Mostly, I did. But beneath, it was a small worry I did not want to name. Not because of Brandon, because of the world around. Him, his mother, his family, their money, their expectations, their way of smiling while making you feel like you had tracked mud into a room. "Still," I said, "I'm happy for you, baby. Are you?" "Of course. You sound—" "I'm crying. That's all." And I was. But not all tears are simple. The wedding planning started almost immediately. Camille wanted something warm and simple. A church ceremony. A reception hall with good food, sunflowers maybe, a DJ who would play old school music after dinner. Nothing. Too big. Nothing too fancy. Then Victoria got involved. The church became a garden venue. The reception hall became the Rosemont Estate. The sunflowers became white orchids. The DJ became a string quartet for cocktail hour and a live band for the reception. Camille called me after the first planning meeting, sounding tired. "Mama, it's just getting bigger. Do you want bigger?" She was quiet. "I want everyone happy." That sentence broke my heart a little. Everyone happy. My daughter had learned that survival skill too early. The child of a tense home often grows into a woman who thinks peace is her responsibility. I said, "Camille, your wedding should make you happy." "I am happy." "But," she sighed, "Victoria has strong opinions." "That woman has strong everything." Camille laughed softly. Then she went quiet again. "She says since their family is helping pay for most of it, we should let her handle certain things." There it was. Money. Money can be a gift. It can also be a leash. "How much are they paying?" I asked. "I don't know exactly. Do you know what you and Brandon want?" "Yes." "Then hold on to that." "I'm trying. I wanted to offer money, but I did not have Rosemont Estate money. I had savings, careful savings, a little retirement, a paid-off car, a mortgage almost finished. I could help with a dress, flowers, maybe catering, but I could not compete with Victoria Hill, and I hated that part of me felt like I needed to. A few weeks later, Camille came over with wedding folders. She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where she used to do homework, and opened a binder. "I want you to help me choose something," she said. That made me smile. "What?" "The mother-daughter dance song?" I stared at her. "Mother-daughter?" "Yes." "I thought weddings did father-daughter." Her face changed. "Daddy isn't walking me down the aisle." I was quiet. Dennis had drifted in and out of the children's lives after the divorce. Birthdays when convenient, graduations when he wanted, photos, phone calls when guilt found him. He had remarried twice, moved twice, forgot more than he remembered. Camille had invited him to the wedding, but she had already told me he was coming as a guest, not as her escort. She said, "You raised me. You're walking me. My eyes filled. Baby. She reached across the table. I mean it, Mama. I cried then. Not pretty, not softly. I cried like a woman whose years had finally been seen, for all the nights I stayed up sewing, for all the bills I stretched, for all the parent-teacher meetings I attended alone, for all the birthdays I made special even when money was tight. My daughter remembered. She knew. That night, we chose a song, a simple song about love staying through hard times. Camille put it on her wedding plan. Processional, string quartet, vows dart reception entrance, mother-daughter dance. I kept looking at those words, mother-daughter dance. It felt like a flower opening inside my chest. Then, 2 months before the wedding, things began to shift. Small things at first. Camille stopped mentioning the dance. When I asked about my dress, she seemed distracted. When I asked if she still wanted me to walk her, she said, "Of course, Mama." But her eyes looked tired. One evening, she came to my house and sat quietly in the living room. I knew something was wrong before she spoke. A mother knows the sound of her child carrying a burden. "Say it," I said. She looked at me. "What?" "Whatever you came here afraid to say." Her lips trembled. "Mama, Victoria thinks it might be better if Uncle Marcus walks me down the aisle." I stared at her. My brother, Marcus. A good man, but not the one who raised her. "Why?" Camille looked down at her hands. She said it would look more traditional. Traditional. That word had done so much damage in this world. I kept my voice calm. "What do you think?" "I want you." "Then why are we discussing Victoria?" She wiped her face. "Because Brandon says his mother just wants the day to look right. Look right. My daughter's wedding was becoming a picture painted by someone else." "And I don't look right?" Camille's head snapped up. "No, Mama. No. That's not what I mean." "What does Victoria mean?" She cried then. "I don't know." But she did. And so did I. I was a single mother. Working class. Not polished enough. Not wealthy enough. Not fitting the image. I stood and went to the kitchen because I needed to do something with my hands. I poured water. Brought it back. Sat beside her. "Camille, listen to me. I will not fight you on your wedding day." Her face crumpled. "Mama, but you need to be honest with yourself. Every time you let someone move me out of the picture, you are teaching them they can move you, too." She cried harder. "I don't want to hurt you. I know. I'm so tired." I pulled her close. For a few minutes, she was my little girl again. Not a bride. Not a woman being squeezed between families. Just my baby. In the end, she said she still wanted me to walk her. And she did. But getting there felt like walking through glass. The week before the wedding, Victoria called me directly. That was the first time she had ever done that. "Lorraine," she said, voice smooth. "Victoria, I wanted to discuss the reception flow." I sat down. "All right. There are a lot of moving parts, and I want the evening to feel elegant, not overly sentimental." I already knew I was about to be insulted. People use elegant like a knife. "When they do not want fingerprints," she continued. "Camille mentioned a mother-daughter dance." "Yes. I think perhaps that may feel a little heavy, given the father situation." The father situation. That was my daughter's pain she was describing like a stain on a tablecloth. I said, "Camille wants it." "Well, Camille is emotional. Right now, she is the bride." "Of course. But sometimes brides need guidance." I leaned back. "My daughter knows what she wants." Victoria sighed. "Lorraine, I am trying to protect the tone of the evening." I closed my eyes. There it was again. Tone, image, appearance. My life, my daughter's tears, our history, all reduced to something that might make guests uncomfortable between salad and cake. I said, "Victoria, if my daughter wants to dance with her mother, I will dance with her." A pause. Then, cooler. "We'll see." "No," I thought. "You will see." But I said nothing. Wedding morning arrived with pale sunlight. I woke before my alarm. My stomach was tight. On the chair by my closet hung my dress, deep blue, soft, simple. Camille had chosen it with me. She said, "Mama, you look beautiful in blue." So blue it was. I dressed carefully, pinned my hair, put on pearl earrings my mother left me. Then I opened the shoebox under my bed and read one of Camille's old notes. "Mama, one day I will buy you a big house." I smiled through tears. "You already gave me enough, baby," I whispered. At the venue, everything looked like a dream. White flowers on wooden arches, rows of chairs in the garden, soft music playing, guests in elegant clothes, staff moving quietly. Victoria stood near the entrance, giving instructions like a general wrapped in silk. She saw me and smiled. "Lorraine, you look nice." "Nice," I smiled back. "Thank you." Camille was in the bridal suite. When I walked in, she turned. My daughter, my baby, my heart. She stood in her wedding gown, and for a second, I forgot every hurt. The dress was simple but stunning. Soft lace, long sleeves, a veil down her back. Her eyes filled when she saw me. "Mama," I went to her carefully, afraid to wrinkle anything. "You are beautiful," she cried. "Don't make me cry." "You started." We laughed. Then she took my hands. "I want you to know something." "What?" "No matter what happens today, you are the reason I'm here." A chill went through me. Why would she say no matter what happens? Before I could ask, the planner came in. 5 minutes. Everything moved quickly after that. Photos, flowers, people adjusting fabric, someone handing me a small bouquet. Then I was standing beside Camille behind the garden doors. The music changed. Guests rose. Camille held my arm tightly. "You ready?" I whispered. She nodded, but her hand trembled. I wanted to stop everything. Ask her if she was sure. Ask her if she was happy. Ask her what Victoria had done now. But the doors opened and my daughter stepped forward. So I stepped with her. We walked down the aisle together, my blue dress beside her white gown. The guests watched. Some smiled, some cried. Victoria sat in the front row on the groom's side. Her face was unreadable. Brandon stood at the altar, crying. That comforted me. Tears can lie, but his looked real. When we reached him, the officiant asked, "Who presents this woman in love and blessing?" My voice was steady. "Her mother does." Camille squeezed my arm. I kissed her cheek, then placed her hand in Brandon's. As I sat down, I felt proud. Tired, tender, worried, all at once. The ceremony was beautiful. The vows were tear-jerking. Brandon promised to honor Camille, to protect her, to build with her. Camille promised love, truth, and patience. I watched her face. She meant every word. I prayed he did too. After the ceremony, guests moved to cocktail hour. Pictures were taken. I stood beside Camille for family photos. Victoria stood on the other side. Her smile was perfect. Her body was stiff. When the photographer said, "Mothers, lean in," I stepped closer. Victoria did too. For 1 second, our shoulders touched. She smelled like expensive perfume and control. At the reception, the ballroom looked breathtaking. Candles, white flowers, gold chairs, crystal glasses, a cake like a sculpture. Everything was beautiful. So beautiful, it almost distracted you from wondering who had paid the emotional cost. I found my seat at the front, family table. To my surprise, I was not pushed to the back. My name card said, "Mrs. Lorraine Brooks." No mama, no mother of the bride, but at least I had a place. Camille and Brandon entered to applause. Dinner began. There was laughter, toast from the best man, toast from Camille's maid of honor. Then the DJ announced, "We'll now hear a few words from the groom's mother, Mrs. Victoria Hill." I looked at the program. I did not remember seeing that listed. Victoria rose slowly, elegant, smiling. She accepted the microphone from the DJ and stood near the center of the room. People turned toward her. Brandon smiled politely. Camille's smile faded. That was my first sign my daughter knew something, or feared something. Victoria began warmly. "Good evening, everyone. What a beautiful day this has been." People nodded. It has been a joy watching my son become the man he is today. Brandon has always been thoughtful, disciplined, and loyal to family. Applause. She turned slightly toward the couple. "And, Camille, you look lovely tonight." Lovely. Not welcome, not beloved. Lovely. I felt my fingers tighten around my napkin. Victoria continued. Weddings are about love, yes, but they are also about families joining together. She paused. Her ease. Found me, there it was. That cold stop. And when families join, honesty matters. The room quieted. Brandon's face changed. Mother, he said softly, but she kept going. Many people see a beautiful wedding and do not understand what it took to create it. The sacrifices, the decisions, the support behind the scenes. Camille's hands began to shake under the table. I saw it. A mother sees hands. Victoria smiled. So tonight, before we continue, I think it is only fair to acknowledge the truth. This wedding was made possible by the Hill family. A strange silence fell, not complete, but uncertain. A few people gave awkward smiles. Victoria continued. We have done everything we can to welcome Camille into a standard of life she deserves, and frankly, one she may not have known before. My breath stopped. There it was. The room shifted. Camille lowered her head. Brandon stood slightly. Mom. Victoria lifted one hand. I'm not finished. The microphone made her voice larger than it deserved. She turned toward me fully now. And I want to say to Lorraine, Camille's mother, that while our families come from very different backgrounds, I hope you understand that from this day forward, Camille will be cared for properly. Properly. Like I had not cared for her. Like my years of sacrifice were something my daughter had escaped. The room went ice cold. I felt every eye move toward me. Some pitying, some shocked, some curious. My face burned. But I did not look down. Victoria kept smiling. She will not have to struggle. She will not have to worry about appearances. She will not have to carry the weight of old family difficulties into this marriage. Old family difficulties. That was me. Our life, our survival, our history, made into something dirty in front of guests. Camille whispered, Please stop. I heard her, maybe only because I was listening with my whole heart. Victoria either did not hear or did not care. And since there has been some confusion about certain reception traditions tonight, I also want to clarify that Brandon and Camille have chosen to keep the evening focused on their future, not the painful past. My stomach dropped. The dance. She was going after the dance. Victoria said, So instead of a mother-daughter dance, we will move directly into the couple's first dance and celebrate the new family they are building. The room was silent. The program in my lap suddenly felt heavy. Mother-daughter dance? Gone. In a speech. In public. My daughter's face had gone pale. Brandon looked furious now, but he still had not taken the microphone. Not yet. That second mattered. Victoria lowered the microphone slightly, as if she had given a blessing, but what she had given was a wound, and everyone had heard it. For a moment, nobody moved. The whole ballroom seemed frozen inside Victoria's words. The candles flickered on the tables. The band members looked at one another. The servers stood still near the wall with plates in their hands. My daughter sat beside her new husband with tears filling her eyes, and I sat at the front family table feeling like all my years had just been dragged into the center of the room and judged unworthy, wanted to disappear. That was my first instinct. Not stand, not speak. Disappear. That is what public humiliation does to a person. It makes your body look for a door before your spirit can find its voice. Victoria still held the microphone. She looked calm, almost proud, like she had done something necessary, like she had cleaned a stain before guests noticed it. Brandon finally stood. His chair scraped against the floor. The sound cracked through the silence. Mother, he said. His voice was low, but everyone heard it. Victoria turned slightly. Yes, darling. Darling. As if she had not just wounded the woman he married. As if she had not just humiliated the woman who raised his bride. Brandon stepped toward her and held out his hand. Give me the microphone. Her smile tightened. I'm only saying. What needed to be said? No, he said. You said what you wanted to say. Now give me the microphone. A few guests gasped softly. Victoria's face changed. Not much. Just enough. For the first time that evening, she looked uncertain. Camille looked at Brandon like she was afraid to hope. I watched him. This was the moment. Not the vows, not the rings, not the kiss. This. A man can promise honor at an altar, but you learn the truth when his mother dishonors his wife in public. Victoria lowered the microphone slowly. Brandon took it. He stood in the middle of that ballroom, tall and stiff, his jaw tight. For a second, he looked at Camille, then at me, then back at his mother. "I need to correct something," he said into the microphone. His voice shook at first, then steadied. "This wedding was not made possible by the Hill family alone." Victoria's mouth pressed into a line. Brandon continued. "My parents contributed money. Yes, Camille and I contributed money. And Mrs. Brooks contributed in ways that do not show up on invoices." The room stayed silent. "She raised the woman I married today. She worked, sacrificed, protected, taught, and loved Camille long before any of us knew her." My throat tightened. Camille began to cry. Brandon looked at me. "Mrs. Brooks, I am sorry. What my mother said was disrespectful." A murmur moved through the room. Victoria looked like she could not believe her son had used that word. "Disrespectful. In public. Good. Some truths need witnesses." Brandon turned to Camille. "And Camille, I am sorry I let this get this far." That sentence told me something. This was not new. Victoria had been pushing before that microphone, and Brandon knew more than I had known. He turned back to the guests. "The mother-daughter dance is not canceled." A sound came from Camille, half sob, half breath. Brandon said, "It was never mine to cancel. It was never my mother's to cancel." He looked at Victoria, "And if anyone feels uncomfortable honoring the woman who raised my wife, they are welcome to leave before the cake is cut." The room went completely still. I saw Victoria's face lose color. Her husband, Richard, who had been sitting at the groom's family table, stared down at his plate like a man hoping the floor might open. Camille stood slowly. Her chair barely made a sound. She walked to Brandon. He handed her the microphone. For a second, she just held it. Her hands were trembling. I wanted to run to her, but I stayed still. This was her moment too. Camille looked at the room, then at Victoria, then at me. "When I was little," she began, her voice shaking, "my mother used to sew dresses at night after working all day." The room softened. She would sit at the kitchen table with a little lamp, sewing hems and fixing zippers so we could have what we needed. Sometimes I would fall asleep listening to the sound of the sewing machine. Tears rolled down my face. Had not known she remembered that sound. Camille continued. "When my father left, my mother did not let our home fall apart. She held us together. She walked me through every hard thing. She taught me how to survive without becoming hard." She looked at Victoria. "So when anyone speaks about my background like it is something I escaped, they are speaking about the woman who saved me." A few people wiped their eyes. Camille turned to Brandon. "I love you, but I need this to be clear today. I am not joining your family by leaving mine behind." Brandon nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know." Then she looked at me. "Mama, will you dance with me?" The room disappeared. All of it. The flowers, the candles, Victoria, the guests. Everything became my daughter's face. My baby, standing in her wedding dress, asking for the dance someone had tried to steal from us. I stood. My knees felt weak. My brother, Marcus, sitting 2 tables away, started to rise like he might help me. I shook my head gently. I needed to walk on my own. I walked toward Camille. Slowly, the room watched. This time, I did not feel their eyes as shame. I felt them as witnesses. Camille met me halfway. She handed the microphone to the DJ. Then she put both arms around me. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered. I held her. "Don't you apologize for another woman's cruelty." "I should have told you." "Yes," I said softly. "You should have." She cried harder. "But not now. Now we dance." The DJ looked lost for a moment. Then Brandon leaned over and spoke to him. The song began. Our song, the one Camille and I chose at my kitchen table. Soft piano, gentle voice, a song about love that stayed. I held my daughter in the middle of the ballroom. She rested her forehead against mine for 1 second, just like she used to when she was little and wanted comfort, but not questions. Then we swayed. Not perfectly, not like rehearsed wedding dances online, just a mother and daughter holding each other through years. I thought about every version of Camille, the baby who grabbed my necklace, the little girl with missing teeth, the teenager crying in her room after Dennis forgot her birthday, the college student calling home because she was scared she would fail, the woman standing now in lace, and tears, choosing not to be ashamed of where she came from. As we danced, I heard people crying. I heard chairs shift. I heard someone whisper, "Beautiful." I did not look at Victoria. Not once. That was my gift to myself. Some people want your pain to keep looking at them. I chose my daughter instead. When the song ended, the room erupted in applause. Not polite applause. Real standing. I felt Camille shake. In my arms, Brandon came to us and wrapped his arms around both of us. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I looked at him. "You have work to do." He nodded. "I know." Victoria was still standing near the side of the room. No microphone now. No smile. No power. For the first time since I had met her, she looked smaller than her pearls. The reception did not return to normal after that. It could not. Something had cracked open. But maybe it needed to. Dinner continued, but quieter. Guests spoke carefully. Some came to me and apologized, even though they had done nothing wrong. That is what people do when they witness cruelty. They want to place kindness somewhere. My brother Marcus hugged me and whispered, "I almost got up. I know. I was ready. I know." My sister-in-law Denise said, "You looked like a queen out there." I laughed through tears. A tired queen. A queen still. Camille stayed close to me for the rest of the evening. Not too close. She was a bride. She had guests, a husband, a wedding to finish, but she kept finding my eyes across the room. Checking, I nodded every time. I was hurt, but standing. After the cake cutting, Victoria approached our table. Brandon saw her coming and stepped between us slightly. That told me he was learning. Victoria stopped. "Lorraine," she said. Her voice was low. The people nearby went quiet. I looked at her. "Yes, I believe." Things got emotional. Not sorry, not I was wrong. Things got emotional. I almost smiled. Some people cannot apologize because apology would require them to step down from the throne they built in their own mind. I said, "No, Victoria." Things got honest. Her face tightened. Brandon said, "Mother." She looked at him. He said, "Not tonight." Her eyes flashed. Then she turned and walked away. Camille exhaled beside me. I touched her hand. "Breathe." She whispered, "I feel sick." "I know." She's going to make Brandon pay for that. I looked at Brandon across the room. He was watching his mother walk away, maybe realizing the same thing. Then he needs to decide what kind of man he is before this marriage gets older than one day. Camille closed her eyes. "Mama, No, that sounds hard." "It's true." I squeezed her hand. Truth on a wedding day is not always cruel. Sometimes it is mercy arriving early. Later that evening, when the dancing started, people tried to bring joy back into the room. The band played old soul music. My brother danced badly. Camille laughed for the first time after the speech. Brandon danced with her like he was holding something fragile he had almost dropped. I watched them and prayed. Not the pretty kind of prayer, the desperate kind. "Lord, do not let my daughter marry into a cage. Lord, make this man stronger than his fear. Lord, make my daughter remember she has a voice." Near the end of the night, Brandon came and sat beside me. He looked exhausted. "Mrs. Brooks." "Brandon, I need to tell you something." I turned slightly. "All right." He swallowed. My mother tried to remove the dance from the program. "I know." She told Camille it would look strange. She told me people would talk. She said it would bring attention to her father not being involved. My chest tightened. "And what did you say?" His eyes filled. "Not enough." I appreciated the honesty. Hated the answer. He continued. "I told Camille it was her choice, but I didn't confront my mother directly. I thought if I stayed neutral. I interrupted him. Neutral is not neutral when someone is being hurt. He nodded. I learned that tonight. Good. Learn it deeply. I will. Because if your mother can humiliate Camille on her wedding day, she will try worse in marriage. He looked toward Camille. I won't let that happen. You already did once. He flinched. Yes, ma'am. I did not say it to wound him. I said it because softness at the wrong time can become permission. He needed to feel the weight. He said, I love your daughter. I believe you. But love without courage becomes a weak shelter. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I understand. I hope so. He stood, then hesitated. Thank you for dancing. With her, I looked up at him. Nothing in this world could have stopped me. He smiled sadly, then walked back to his wife. That night, after the reception ended, I went home alone. My blue dress hung heavy on my body, my feet ached, my head hurt, but my heart was strange, broken and proud at the same time. I sat at my kitchen table after midnight and removed my earrings. The house was quiet. On the table still sat the folder from wedding planning, the one where Camille and I had chosen the song. I opened it. Mother-daughter dance. I touched the words. They tried? I whispered, then I smiled through tears, but they didn't take it. The morning after the wedding, I woke up with my body aching like I had fought a battle. In a way, I had. My phone was full of messages. Some from family, some from church friends, some from people who had been at the wedding and did not know what to say, but wanted me to know they saw me. My brother Marcus wrote, "You handled yourself with grace. I'm proud of you." My sister-in-law Denise wrote, "That dance was the most beautiful part of the wedding." My friend Loretta wrote, "If Victoria ever needs someone to explain manners, I am available and retired." That one made me laugh for the first time that morning. Then I saw Camille's message. "Mama, are you awake?" I called her. She answered on the first ring. "Mama?" Her voice sounded small, too small for a married woman the day after her wedding. "I'm awake, baby. I'm so sorry." She started crying before I could speak. I closed my eyes. There are cries a mother recognizes. Hungry cry. Tired cry. Heartbroken cry. This was guilt. Deep guilt. "I should have told you," she said. Yes. I knew Victoria was trying to cancel the dance. I knew she was saying things. I just kept thinking I could manage it. "By yourself? I didn't want to hurt you before the wedding. So you let me be hurt at the wedding," she sobbed. Did not take the words back. Truth must sometimes stand without a cushion. "I know," she whispered. "Camille, why didn't you tell me?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Because I was ashamed." Of what? That I was letting her push me around. I looked at the window. Morning light came through the curtains. Soft, indifferent. She kept saying I was too emotional, Camille continued. That I was letting childhood wounds control the wedding. That Brandon's family had done so much, and I needed to be grateful. I felt heat rise in me. And Brandon? He tried. Sometimes. But then she would cry or say he was embarrassing. Her, and he would back down. There it was. A pattern, not a moment. A pattern, I said. "Where is Brandon now?" "In the shower." "Are you going on the honeymoon?" A pause. "We're supposed to leave tonight." "Supposed to?" That word carried trouble. "What do you want?" She cried again. "I don't know. That frightened me more than anger would." Have. A woman who does not know what she wants after a public wound is standing at a dangerous edge. I said, "Camille, listen to me carefully. Your marriage began yesterday. That means patterns are forming now. Do not spend the first week teaching him that your pain can be postponed for peace." She breathed shakily. "What should I do? I cannot decide your marriage for you." No. But I can tell you this. Before you get on a plane with that man, you need to know whether he understands what happened." He stood up. "Yes. And that mattered. But now he needs to keep standing after the music stops." She was quiet. Then she whispered, "I'm scared. I know. I love him. I know that too. What if his mother never accepts me? Then you need a husband who does, she cried softly. I let her. Then I said, come over. But we have brunch with his family at 11. I almost laughed. Of course Victoria had planned a morning after brunch. The woman could not let one day breathe. Do you want to go? I asked. No. Then don't. Silence. Such a simple thing. Do not go where you do not want to be humiliated again. But for women trained to keep peace, no can feel like rebellion. Camille said, Brandon will feel caught in the middle. He is not caught in the middle. He is standing at the beginning of his marriage. He needs to choose how to stand, she whispered. Okay. Talk to him, then call me. An hour later, Brandon called from Camille's phone. That surprised me. Mrs. Brooks, he said. Yes. I'm bringing Camille to your house. Is that all right? I sat straighter. It is. We canceled the brunch. Good. Very good. I need to speak with you too, he said. All right. When they arrived, Camille still had her bridal hair partly pinned up. She wore sweatpants and a hoodie, but there were traces of wedding makeup near her eyes. Brandon looked tired and serious. They came in holding hands. That mattered. Not enough, but it mattered. I made coffee. Nobody wanted food. We sat in the living room, Camille beside me, Brandon across from us. He leaned forward. I want to apologize without hiding. Behind my mother. That was a strong opening. I waited. He continued. My mother has controlled family events my whole life. I know that. I thought I had boundaries because I disagreed with her privately. But last night showed me private disagreement is not protection. Nodded slowly. That man had been thinking. Good. He looked at Camille. I let you carry stress you should not have carried. I let my mother question your choices. I let her talk about your family like image mattered more than love. I did not stop it early enough. Camille cried quietly. Then he looked at me. And Mrs. Brooks, I let my mother disrespect you before the wedding, not only during the speech. That caught me. How? He swallowed. She pushed to have your brother walk Camille. She pushed to remove the dance. She wanted your name moved from the front family table to a table with distant relatives. Camille closed her eyes. I felt my hands grow cold. What? Brandon nodded, shame on his face. I stopped the seating change. But I didn't tell you because I didn't want conflict. I stared at him. You did not stop conflict? You stored it until it exploded. He looked down. Yes, ma'am. What else? Camille whispered. Mama. I looked at Brandon. What else? He took a long breath. My mother asked the photographer not to focus too much on your side of the family. For a moment I could not speak. Not focus too much. As if we were clutter. As if our love would ruin the album. Camille sobbed into her hands. Brandon's eyes filled. I confronted her about that after the ceremony, before the reception. She said, I was being sensitive. I thought if I just got through the night. I shook my head. That phrase has ruined many lives. He looked up. What phrase? Get through it. I had told myself that with Dennis for years. Just get through dinner. Just get through the weekend. Just get through the holidays. Then one day you wake up and realize getting through it became your whole life. I said, do not build a marriage on getting through disrespect. Brandon nodded. I won't. Camille wiped her face. What did your mother say when we canceled brunch? Brandon looked at her. She said you were turning me against my family. Camille flinched. He took her hand. I told her no. I told her I was protecting the family. I made vows to yesterday. That was good. Camille looked at him. Hope and fear together. And? She hung up. I almost smiled. Victoria Hill had probably not been hung up on often. Brandon continued. I told my father we would speak with them after the honeymoon. Not before. Honeymoon? I asked. Camille looked at Brandon. He looked at her. We still want to go, she said softly, but we're delaying one day. Why? Brandon said. Because we're meeting a counselor this afternoon. That surprised me. A counselor? My friend recommended one after he and his wife had issues with his parents. I called this. Morning. I sat back. Maybe this young man had more backbone than I feared. Camille said, I want to go. I want us to start right. I touched her hand. Then start with truth. We talked for 2 hours. Hard talk, painful talk, but honest. I told Brandon about Dennis. Not all of it. Enough. I told him how control often begins with small requests and pretty explanations. How a woman can disappear while everyone says she is being difficult for objecting. How marriage does not protect a woman if her husband values peace with his mother more than dignity with his wife. Brandon listened. He did not interrupt. He did not defend. At one point, he cried. I don't want to become that kind of husband, he said. Then don't. He nodded. Camille leaned into my shoulder. My baby was tired, but something in her face looked clearer than it had in months. Before they left for counseling, she hugged me. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I forgive you, she cried. But forgiveness does not mean we skip the lesson. I know. Do you? I do now. Brandon hugged me too. Not the polite hug from before. A real one. Thank you, he said. For what? For not pretending it was okay. I looked at him. Pretending is expensive. I'm too old to keep paying. He smiled through tears. After they left, I sat in my kitchen. I should have felt relieved. Partly I did, but I also felt angry. At Victoria, at Brandon, at Camille, at myself. Yes, myself. Because I had seen signs, the lunch, the questions, the tone, the word administrative, the push against the dance. I had felt the warning inside me, but I kept telling myself to be gracious. Gracious. Another word women are handed when people want us quiet. That afternoon, Victoria called. I watched her name appear on my phone. Brandon must have given her my number months ago, though she rarely used it. I let it ring. She called again. I let it ring again. Then a text came. Lorraine, I think we should speak woman to woman. Woman to woman. That almost made me laugh. Where was woman to woman when she held the microphone? I did not respond. A few minutes later, another text. Last night got out of hand. I hope you understand. I only wanted what was best for the children. The children. My 34-year-old daughter had become the children now that Victoria wanted authority. I typed slowly. Victoria, I am not ready to speak with you. What happened did not get out of hand. You used your hand to take the microphone. I stared at the message, then sent it. My heart pounded like I had shouted. She did not reply. Good. That evening, my brother Marcus came over with takeout. He did not ask. He just arrived. Some people can do that because they have earned it. He set the food on my table and said, I brought ribs because public insult requires protein. I laughed, then cried. He sat with me while I told him everything Brandon had admitted. The seating change, the photographer, the brunch. Marcus's face grew darker with every word. I should have walked you out of there. No. Yes. Marcus, I needed to stay for Camille. He nodded reluctantly. That dance was something. It was. Dennis called me. My body stiffened. What? Your ex-husband heard about it. Of course he did. Family shame has long legs. What did he say? Marcus looked disgusted. He said maybe if Camille had asked him to walk her, none of that would have happened. For a moment, I could not breathe. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because some people are so committed to being useless that they become predictable. Of course he did, Marcus said. I told him the only aisle he needed to walk down was one at the grocery store to buy himself some sense. I laughed harder. Then I cried again. Marcus reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You did good, Lorraine. I'm tired. I know. I should be happy. My daughter got married. You can be happy and hurt. Both can sit down. That was true. Both had been sitting in me all day. Happy for Camille, hurt by Victoria, proud of the dance, afraid for the marriage. Relieved, Brandon stood up. Angry, he waited. A heart can hold many things and still beat. That night, before bed, Camille called. Counseling had been hard, she said. Good, but hard. They were going on the honeymoon the next day. Are you okay with that? I asked. I think so. Not because you want to escape. No, because we want time away from everyone to talk. That sounded healthy. Then go. Mama? Yes? Thank you for dancing with me. I smiled through tears. Thank you for asking. They tried to take it, but they didn't. No, she whispered. They didn't. After we hung up, I wrote in my notebook, wedding day. Victoria tried to shame us. Camille chose me. Brandon stood late, but stood. Dance happened. Truth came out. Then I added, never let elegance rename cruelty. I underlined it twice. Camille and Brandon went on their honeymoon one day late. I was glad, not because a honeymoon fixes anything, but because they left after telling the truth instead of running from it. They went to a quiet beach town instead of the expensive resort Victoria had suggested. Camille texted me a picture of the ocean the first morning. No caption, just blue water. I wrote back, breathe. She replied, trying. During that week, Victoria did not call me again, but she called Brandon many times. Camille told me later that he answered once, put the phone on speaker, and told his mother they would speak when they returned. Victoria cried, then accused, then said he had embarrassed her. Brandon said, Mother, you embarrassed yourself. I would have paid money to hear that. Camille said she sat beside him holding his hand while he said it. That mattered. A marriage is not built by avoiding storms. It is built by learning whose hand you hold when the storm comes. When they returned, they came to my house first. Not Victoria's. Mine. Camille looked rested, though still tender. Brandon brought me a small shell from the beach. I know it's not much, he said. It's from peace, I said. That makes it plenty. We sat in the kitchen and ate chicken salad sandwiches. Nothing fancy, no orchids, no string quartet, just food and truth. Brandon said, We are meeting my parents tomorrow. Camille's shoulders tightened. At their house? I asked. No, Brandon said. Counselor's office. Good, very good. My father agreed. My mother said she would come because she wants to explain herself. I raised an eyebrow. Explain or apologize? Brandon smiled sadly. I know. Camille reached for my hand. I'm nervous. I would be too. I don't want to fight her forever. You don't have to fight forever, but you do have to stand long enough for her to learn where the wall is. She nodded. The meeting happened the next day. I was not there. That was important. Some battles were theirs now. Camille called me afterward. Her voice sounded drained. How did it go? I asked. She cried. I assumed. She said she felt replaced. That surprised me less than it should have. By who? Me. Marriage. You. Change. Everything. I sat down. Camille continued. She said Brandon used to come to her. For everything. Then he met me. Then the wedding became about my feelings. My family. My pain. She said she felt like she was losing him. And did the counselor point out she tried to solve that by attacking his bride's mother? Camille gave a small laugh. Yes. Good counselor. What did Brandon say? He told her love is not ownership. I closed my eyes. That was a sentence worth keeping. He said she could be his mother without controlling his marriage. And Victoria? She did not like that. I imagine. But she listened. Some. Some was not much, but it was a start. Camille's voice softened. She also said she was sorry. I stayed quiet. To me? Camille added. Not to you. Then the apology is unfinished. I know. A week later, I received a letter. Cream paper. Expensive envelope, my name written in black ink, Lorraine Brooks. No misses, no warmth, just control in cursive. I opened it at my kitchen table with Ruth on the phone. Ruth was my cousin, not my sister. But we were raised close enough to know each other's business before it happened. Read it, she said. Let me see first. The letter began. Lorraine, the wedding reception did not unfold as I intended. I stopped. Ruth said, Bad start? Very. I continued reading. Victoria wrote about stress, emotion, miscommunication, her desire for a beautiful evening, her concern about Camille carrying pain from the past, her fear that Brandon was being pulled away. Then, near the end, she wrote, If. My words caused embarrassment. I regret that. I put the letter down. Ruth said, Throw it away. I picked it back up and read the final line. I hope we can move forward for the sake of the children. Children again. Everyone was grown until Victoria wanted to be in charge. I folded the letter. Not an apology, I said. Of course not. I'm not answering. Good. But I did not throw it away. I put it in a drawer. Not because it mattered, because one day if someone said Victoria apologized, I wanted proof of what she actually offered. A few days later, Brandon called. Mrs. Brooks, my mother told me she sent you a letter. She did. She said it was an apology. It was not. He sighed. I was afraid of that. I will not accept regret for embarrassment when the wound was disrespect. He was quiet, then said, That's fair. I know. I'm going to talk to her. Brandon, talk if you need to, but do not make my healing depend on her growth. He paused. That's hard. Yes. I want her to fix it. I understand. But some people only fix what they fear losing, not what they understand they broke. He exhaled. I'm learning that. Good. Because he needed to. Over the next few months, Camille and Brandon built boundaries. No unannounced visits from Victoria. No wedding photos shared until Camille approved them. No family events where Victoria controlled the seating, program, or speeches. No private insults disguised as advice. Brandon struggled. I will be honest. Some days he did well. Other days he sounded tired and guilty. Victoria knew every button she had installed in him. She pressed them carefully. A sigh. A tear. A memory. After all I've done for you, your father and I sacrificed. You've changed. You used to respect me. Control often speaks the language of family history. But Brandon kept going to counseling. Camille went too. And slowly I saw my daughter relax. Her voice changed. She stopped asking me, Do you think I'm overreacting? Instead, she started saying, This is what I need. That made me proud. Not because I wanted her fighting, because I wanted her clear. One Sunday, they invited me to dinner at their apartment. Not the large house Victoria had wanted them to buy. A modest apartment near Brandon's job. Camille said, We're saving for our own place, not accepting help with strings. I almost cried when she said that. At dinner, Brandon cooked pasta. Too much garlic. But edible. Camille made salad. I brought peach cobbler because some traditions are worth keeping. After dinner, Brandon stood. I want to show you something. He brought out their wedding album proof gallery on a laptop. My stomach tightened. Photos. The day was still tender. Camille sat beside me. We looked already, she said. We chose some. They showed me the ceremony. Me walking her down the aisle, my blue dress beside her white gown. The kiss, the reception, then the mother-daughter dance. There we were, Camille's arms around me, my eyes closed, her forehead touching mine. The room blurred behind us. The photographer had captured something. Holy, I covered my mouth, Camille cried. Brandon said softly, We ordered that one framed. I nodded, unable to speak. Then he clicked to another photo. Victoria standing with the microphone, her face elegant. My face in the background. Still, Camille's head lowered. Brandon said, We are not putting that one in the album. I looked, at it for a long moment. Keep it. They both looked at me. What? Camille asked. Not in the album, but keep it. Why? Because one day, when memory tries to soften the truth too much, you need to remember what happened before. The dance, Camille took that in, then nodded. I understand. Healing is not deleting the wound. Sometimes healing is keeping the evidence where it cannot poison you but can still teach you. The framed dance photo arrived a month later. Camille brought it to my house. We hung it in my living room. Near the old family photos. Near a picture of Malcolm in his firefighter uniform. Near Camille's graduation picture. She stood beside me looking at it. I look like I'm holding on to you for dear life, she said. You were, she laughed softly. I still am sometimes. That's all right. Just don't forget to stand too. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I won't. At Christmas, Victoria invited everyone to her house. Brandon asked Camille if she wanted to go. She said yes, but with rules. Short visit. No sleeping over. No speeches. If Victoria insulted either of us, they would leave. I was invited too. I considered saying no. Then I decided to go. Not because I needed Victoria's house, because I wanted to see whether this woman had learned anything with her own eyes watching me. Her house was exactly as I imagined. Large, cream walls, tall tree, gold ornaments, beautiful and slightly afraid of laughter. Victoria greeted me at the door. Lorraine! Victoria. A pause. Then she said, "Thank you for coming." That was new. "You're welcome." Dinner was formal but not hostile. Victoria behaved. Mostly, there were moments where I saw words almost leave her mouth and die behind her teeth. Progress, maybe. After dessert, she asked if she could speak with me privately. Camille stiffened. Brandon looked at me. I said, "We can speak in the sitting room with the door open." Victoria's face tightened slightly. Then she nodded. Good. I was no longer entering closed rooms with that woman. We sat. She folded her hands. "I owe you a better apology than the letter." I said nothing. She swallowed. What I said at the wedding was cruel. The word surprised me. Cruel. Not emotional, not unfortunate. Cruel. I was angry, she continued, and jealous, and afraid. I felt like I was losing my son, and I blamed you and Camille for feelings that were mine to manage. I listened carefully. She looked older than before, still elegant, but less armored. I looked down on your background because it made me feel superior. That was wrong. My eyebrows lifted. Truth had finally arrived dressed plainly, she continued. And I tried to remove your dance because I knew it honored a history I could not control. That one mattered. I felt it. I humiliated you publicly, she said. And I am sorry. I let silence sit, not to punish, to give the words weight. Then I said, "Thank you for saying it clearly." Her eyes filled. "I do not expect us to be close." "We are not," she nodded. "But I hope we can be respectful. Respect is required. Closeness is earned." She looked down. "That is fair." It was. We returned to the living room. Camille looked at my face, asking without words. I nodded once. Not healed, but safe enough for the evening. That Christmas did not turn us into one big happy family. Those are movie endings. Real families move slower, but there were no speeches, no insults, no attempts to erase me. And when Victoria took family photos near the tree, she said, "Lorraine, please stand beside Camille. Please, beside Camille." Another small correction. I stood there, not smiling too wide, but smiling. Brandon set the timer. The camera flashed. In the photo, Victoria stands on one side, controlled but trying. I stand on the other side, calm but careful. Camille stands between us, not trapped, held by truth. A year after the wedding, Camille and Brandon hosted their first anniversary dinner. Not at Victoria's house, not at Rosemont Estate, not at some polished restaurant where the napkins looked afraid to be touched. They hosted it in their apartment. Small table, 6 chairs. A vase of grocery store flowers, a roast chicken that Brandon proudly said he did not burn. Camille made mashed potatoes. I brought peach cobbler. Victoria brought salad. I noticed that. Salad. Something simple. Something that did not announce power. My son Malcolm came too, along with his wife and their little boy. For the first time, both families sat in one room without anyone trying to direct the air. Before dinner, Camille pulled me into the bedroom. She closed the door. For a second, I had a flash of the bridal. Sweet. The lace, the trembling hands, the words, "No matter what happens today." But this time she was smiling. "Mama, I want to show you something." She opened a small box. Inside was a bracelet. Silver. Simple, with a tiny blue stone. "It's for you," she said. "Baby, why?" "For our anniversary." I laughed softly. "That is not how anniversaries work." "It is for me." She took the bracelet out. "Because 1 year ago, you danced with me when I needed to remember who I was." My eyes filled. She fastened it around my wrist. "I should have told you everything before the wedding. I should have trusted you with the truth." "Yes," I said. She nodded. "I know. I'm still sorry." "I know. I'm stronger now." "I see that." She smiled. "Brandon is too." "Yes. Victoria is working." I laughed. "That is a generous word. Camille laughed too, then grew serious. I used to think being loved meant being chosen by another family. Like if they accepted me, it meant I was worthy. I touched her face. Oh, baby. Now I know I was worthy before I walked into that room. Yes, you were. She hugged me. I held her tightly. Then she whispered, I'm not leaving mine behind. That sentence. The one she had said at the reception. I closed my eyes. No, you are not. At dinner, Brandon stood with a glass of sparkling cider. He had asked Camille first if he could make a toast. That alone showed growth. He looked around the table. 1 year ago, Camille and I got married. It was a beautiful day and a hard day. Everyone knew what he meant. Victoria looked down at her plate, but she did not interrupt. Brandon continued. I learned that day that love cannot be private when disrespect is public. I learned that being a husband means protecting my wife's dignity, even when the person crossing the line is my own mother. Victoria closed her eyes. I watched her. She took it. That was something. Brandon looked at me. And I learned from Mrs. Brooks that courage can be quiet and still shake a room. My throat tightened. He turned to Camille. Thank you for building this first year with me. Thank you for telling me the truth even when I deserved to hear it. I love you, Camille cried. They kissed, softly. Not for show. Then Victoria stood. My body stiffened out of old memory. A mother with a microphone had started all this. This time there was no microphone, just a woman standing at a small apartment table, holding a salad fork. She looked at Camille. I would like to say something, if I may. Camille looked at Brandon, then nodded. Victoria turned to me first. That surprised me. Lorraine, I have apologized privately, but I want to say in front of this family that what I did at the wedding was wrong. I humiliated you, and I hurt Camille. I was trying to hold on to control, and I called it love. The room was silent. She looked at Camille. You did not take my son away from me. You became his wife. I should have honored that. Camille wiped her eyes. Then Victoria looked at Brandon. And you were right to stop me. Brandon's eyes filled. That sentence might have cost her more than all the others. She sat down. No performance. No demand for forgiveness. Just truth placed on the table. I respected that. After dinner, Camille played music. The same song from our mother-daughter dance. She looked at me. Again? I smiled. At an anniversary dinner? Why not? So, we danced in the tiny living room. No ballroom, no orchids, no guests watching, just family. This time, halfway through, Brandon joined. Then Malcolm grabbed his wife. Even Victoria, after a moment, danced with her husband Richard. It was awkward, small, human. The kind of beautiful money cannot arrange. As the song played, I looked at my daughter. She looked peaceful. Not perfect, not untouched by pain. Peaceful. There is a difference. After the dinner, when I got home, I sat in my living room and looked at the framed wedding dance photo, the blue dress, the white gown, the tearful faces, the stolen moment that was not stolen after all. That photo had become one of my treasures. Not because the day was perfect, because it proved something. People can try to shame what raised you. They can try to erase your seat, cancel your dance, rewrite your story, call your background a burden, make your survival sound like something your child escaped. But truth has a way of standing up, sometimes through a groom finally taking the microphone. But truth has a way of standing up, sometimes through a groom finally taking the microphone. Sometimes through a bride saying, I am not leaving my family behind. Sometimes through a mother walking to the dance floor with tears on her face and dignity in her spine. Think often about Victoria's speech. Not because I want to stay angry. Anger is heavy. I carried enough heavy things in my life. I think about it because it taught me how quickly beauty can hide cruelty. That wedding was beautiful. The flowers were perfect. The vows made people cry. The candles glowed. The cake stood tall. But beneath all that beauty, there was a fight over dignity. That is why we must be careful. Not every insult comes loud. Some come dressed in pearls. Some come through tradition. Some come through tone. Some come through, we just want what's best. Some come through a microphone at a wedding reception before the cake is even cut. If you are listening to this and you are a mother who raised a child through hard times, let me tell you something. Do not let anyone speak about your struggle like it is shameful. Your struggle fed children, your struggle paid bills, your struggle kept lights on, your struggle showed up when easier people walked away. There is no shame in honest work, no shame in raising children without wealth, no shame in being the parent who stayed. And if you are a daughter or a son, remember this. When you marry, you may join a new family, but you do not have to erase the one that carried you. Love that requires you to be ashamed of your roots is not love, it is a costume. And costumes get heavy after a while. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Voices of Auntie Lily, and write in the comments what you would have done if the groom's mother stood up at your daughter's wedding and tried to shame your family in front of everyone. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions help these stories reach another mother, daughter, grandmother, or lonely parent who may be sitting somewhere feeling like their sacrifices were forgotten. And if you want more emotional family stories about betrayal, forgiveness, boundaries, dignity, and healing, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next story. Because sometimes a story is not just a story. Sometimes it reminds someone that what they survived is not something to hide. Final life lesson: never be ashamed of the life that made you strong. Never let polished people make honest sacrifice look small. Never let money speak louder than love, and never let anyone cancel the dance you earned through years of showing up. Wedding can be beautiful. The flowers can be perfect. The vows can make everyone cry. But the real beauty is not in the centerpieces or the expensive cake. The real beauty is in honor, in courage, in a daughter who remembers who raised her, in a husband who learns to stand, in a mother who refuses to look down when someone tries to shame her. That night, Victoria stood up to speak. She thought she was revealing our weakness, but all she really did was reveal our strength. Because before the cake was cut, before the music ended, before the guests went home, my daughter took my hand in front of everyone. And we danced, not as a perfect family, not as a rich family, not as a family without scars. We danced as a mother and daughter who had survived enough to know this truth. No one can erase the love that raised you when you are brave enough to honor it. Out loud.